Hello. Welcome to the Empowered Artist Collective podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Apple, a multi-hyphenate actor, educator, acting coach, writer, dog mom, and founder of this vibrant community that champions artists as they carve out their own unique paths in this wild industry. Whether you're just starting out, in the thick of it, or seeking a bit of artistic fuel to expand your toolbox, you're in the right place. In this space, we'll have honest conversations, share actionable strategies, tips, and resources, and delve into the messy yet beautiful journey of living a sustainable, creative life. We unmask the reality of life as an artist, from navigating career highs and lows to nurturing your full human well-being. I chat with women and non-binary guests who share their personal stories, helpful learnings, and hearts to help you unlock your artistic potential, expand your knowledge, and show up fully and fearlessly in your artistry and daily life. Before we dive into this week's conversation, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. If today's chat resonates with you, please leave us a review. It helps us reach even more incredible artists just like you. And hey, feel free to spread the love. Share this podcast with a friend or post it on your socials, making sure to tag at Empowered Artist Collective and at @JenniferApple_ so we can chat with you there. All right, grab a cup of something cozy, settle in, and let's get to it. What does it mean to devote nearly 2 decades to a cycle of work while also leaping into entirely new forms? In this episode of our Playwright Mini-Series, I sit down with playwright, TV writer, and educator Mfoniso Udofia. Mfoniso shares how writing came from a place of healing and purpose, and how her 9-play cycle has grown into an expansive, intergenerational exploration of identity, hope, and belonging. She talks about finding a trusted circle of collaborators, knowing how to keep the emotional spark within the editing process, the challenges of finding balance, and the grief of letting go of a long creative chapter. Together, we discuss her transition into writing for TV, learning the craft of image-driven storytelling, adjusting to the collaboration of a writer's room, and understanding the unique desires of different networks, with takeaways on finding your voice, nurturing what excites you in your own work, and learning when to listen and when to stand firm. This conversation is equal parts inspiration and toolkit for artists and writers navigating all mediums. Enjoy. Mfoniso Udofia, welcome to the space.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here.
Y'all, I'm really pumped because, this is going to sound really maybe creepy, but Mfoniso is an alum of the same grad program that I went to at ACT, and her work has been going at places that I've seen it and also places that I've worked, and also just featuring people that I love and adore. And I feel like your creative space has just it's in my space, and I'm so excited to learn more and know more and understand your process and you as a human and an artist, and I'm really pumped. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm just happy to be here. I woke up this morning and went, this is what I got today. Great.
I love it. And that's all we can start from. So with that, who are you today?
I am Mfoniso Udofia. I still am her, which is great because there's some days I wake up and I'm like, I don't know who I am today. I am somebody's playwright, somebody's TV writer, an educator who covered herself in a bouquet of flowers to remind herself that life is good. That's who I am today.
Do you have a particular favorite flower?
I love a dahlia.
Okay.
I love any kind of flower where there are multiple pieces or buds, or there's some kind of intricacy going. So I would look at the pistons or the interior of a flower going, that's complicated. So.
And this is how I know you're a writer, because the word piston has never come out of my mouth. I feel like I know what it is now that I've seen you visually put your fingers to it, but I'm like, a piston, yes, inside the flower. Mm-hmm.
I hope that I even said the right thing.
No one's going to correct you.
They should, though. They should. Sometimes the things that come out of my mouth are highly suspect. Anyway, yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for being here and bringing the flower glory. I'm curious to hear, you obviously have had a beautifully ornate and blossoming career that started from Actorland.
It did.
So I would love to hear how that started and how you've come to where you are now.
Yeah, it's been circuitous. I've been here, there, and everywhere. My parents told me that I was going to be a lawyer. Very, very Nigerian, in a way that Nigerians might actually roll their eyes now and be like, we all were going to be lawyers, doctors, engineers, or somebody, And so I definitely thought that. And I had, my first trainings were in music, and I was really doing music in order to get into school, because how else are you going to pay for things? So I needed every scholarship. And so I did everything I could. And so it took me a second, and it was at Wellesley, to understand that the thing that's my hobby can also be my life choice, my job choice. And so it was at Wellesley where I pivoted away from political science and lawyering, thinking that I was going to do that, into something like singing. And then that moved into acting. And that's where I went to ACT. I made my parents really confused by my choices. And that's how I started. And I loved it. I love stories and I love storytelling. So my first way in was as an actor.
And then how did the writing begin, or why? Or was there a moment that was like, this must be said, or actually I'm seeing and they're not being done the way, like what was the spark, or was there a spark, or how did that all start?
There were many sparks. I mean, the first spark was 2009. I am part of that millennial class where every bad thing that happened or could happen happened. So I get out of ACT and I can't find a job. People aren't going to the theater. It's like 2009, the height of the Great Recession. People aren't going to the theater anymore because who can afford that? Nobody has jobs either. And so the way I dealt with it, a lot of pain, was to write. And I wrote in the last form I studied, which is playwriting. So that's how my writing came out of me. I wasn't like in my head going, I am going to be a writer. It was, I need to get these thoughts and these feelings out. And then I was also acting. And at that moment, I couldn't book an acting job to save my life. And a part of it was my type, where I have a certain look, and I am Black, I am thick, I'm pretty bright and bubbly, but I'm not necessarily like what those parts are. I'm not that.
Right.
There was a way we used to say it, which I don't say as much anymore, but I'm just going to say it because that's how we said it. I'm not a great sassy girl sidekick. I'm just not. I am, when acting, either sweeter or tougher, and I couldn't find the parts for me. So writing became the way I processed a lot of hurt and a lot of pain. And then that starts taking off. That career takes off before I've even said in my mind that I'm a writer.
Thank you for sharing that it was a personal way in. I think and that's why I have this series again, to show that there isn't the like one way for the quote unquote title that people have, that they associate with human beings, that like, oh, they're a playwright, therefore they must do it this way. And I'm really on a mission to like, take that and kind of synthesize it into like, no, actually there's so many ways to be it. There's so many ways to enter it. There's so many ways to embrace it. And so I applaud you for, leaning into it as a form of healing, and knowing that that's a way that you were able to process for yourself.
Yes.
And your work is clearly a reflection of personal life things that or surround yourself with. And so I'm curious to unpack your cycle. Like, this is like, it's epic.
To unpack it too. I don't know.
Right. I mean, was that something that you sought out to do, or was it like, oh wow, now I'm peeling back this onion, and oh wow, there's so much more, and it just has to keep happening? It was
more
than the egg?
It was more that.
Okay.
Like the first play I wrote was The Grove, which just the title of it, The Grove. I just actually got a production of it. Oh goodness, what is time? Time is a flat circle, and every day is like Wednesday. I think, was it 2 or 3 months ago? Yikes, my brain. as directed by Owoye Timpo. But that play was 16 years old. It was the first play I'd ever written. And I thought it was a standalone play. So that particular play, The Grove, when I wrote it, it was my interrogation as a Nigerian woman, what it means to self-identify when you come from a collectivist culture. And when I first wrote that play, it wasn't very, very good. And I had to put it away for a little while. And it would, over time, I'd start re-editing it. But I was like, okay, there is something here. Not certain how it's going to live. It had many readings. It had great, positive response. But I knew that there was something inside of it that needed to go further. And so I turned my eye to the Nigerian immigrants who'd first come to this country, who are featured in The Grove. And so that's Abasiyama Ufot and Disciple Ufot, who are my main matriarch and patriarch. And I decided to write about them and and to continue following this question-based interrogation through play. And I found that as I kept doing that, more and more story unfurled underneath me. And I was endlessly fascinated about what makes people come to this country, want to build, where they put their dreams, what happens when you have children and the dreams for your children are not the dreams you had for yourself and for them. And so the cycle just grew underneath me. And then I want to say around play 4 or something, her portmanteau, I go back and I'm re-editing Inside the Grove, and that play starts standing up. So it was organic. I didn't actually start out going, I'm going to write a cycle. I started out, I'm going to write one play. That one play became 3 plays. 3 plays became 5. Then 5 became 9. And I said in the press, it's going to be 9 plays in order to make sure it didn't become 35.
Because you feel like there's still so much more to say?
And also to give myself an actual end. That was important for me. At a certain point, I wanted to rest.
Big.
Yes. Yeah. I just needed to go 9. 3 sets of 3 felt like a wonderful amount of story to tell 100 years.
Yeah.
And then to leave it with enough hope at the end for Adi and Cloris Snatch Joy, which is the last play, enough hope where this family will continue on, that the cycle is still going, and that they are most likely fine. I'm just not writing it anymore.
Okay. Oof. So much. So much. And so gorgeous and wonderful. And I don't even know where my brain wants to go first. I guess I'll go backwards in that, how do you know when to stop? Obviously 9 as a number is a concrete, framework within to play. But in terms of the stories that might still be bubbling underneath, or the angles of this character or the world, how do you decide and make decisions and be decisive around your own investigation?
For me, I just made the decision. And listen, I'm about to run against myself because there might be a sleeper 10th play. But anyway, I had to just make a decision that I wanted to write other things one day. I also want to do other things. I am a surround sound artist. I like interior design. I love to garden. And there's a way that when I am writing, it is the only creative thing that is really happening. It's like my body becomes the story. And there are times where I'm like, I think as I get older, it'd be nice to explore different creative modes. And so I wanted to give myself a point in a future that was I am done. Now, the reason why I think that that's funny is you just heard me go, there might be a 10th.
Yeah.
So I also reserve the right to run retrograde to anything that I say.
Yeah. No, but
Right?
I think you're naming something really true. You know, and I think that's maybe why I asked, which is like, there felt like a very decisive
Yeah.
culmination to the thing, which is necessary when we're living in a world that requires you to have like, here is a play that I can produce on a stage. Like if that is what we're trying to do, it has to be a thing that's very tangible, and it can't
Right.
be this nebulous, like there is stuff. It's like, no, this is a thing we're doing. And I, in hearing you talk about it, it's this thing that has been underneath this undercurrent for so long, and it's this family that's going to continue. And so I guess as a creative, and maybe this is me projecting, it's like these people are living inside of you, and they have worlds and lives that you want to continue unpacking and knowing. That, like, I imagine that duality is complicated to name, and also at some point, yes, you need to rest.
It is. To be able to say now that it's been 16 years since I first started writing this cycle, and knowing in my heart, I probably won't be writing past like the 20th year of this. And that's okay. And I'm in Boston right now. I think they're putting up all my plays in Boston, which is an incredible thing. But it's also I'm entering the door of that marks the end of this. And there is a kind of grieving that's also happening. Before my podcast with you, or doing this with you, I was on a meeting for the ceremony. I apologize, my brain's a little scattered. Which is the 7th, oh God help me, the 6th play in the cycle. And it's in that play that I have made the decision I'm not writing Disciple Ufot again. And that hurts. And so before our moment together, I was actually tearing up while writing an edit in the room on a Zoom rehearsal for Disciple to say, knowing this is the closest he will get to telling his son he loves him. And then after this play, he will pass away. Going as my way of going, I'm not writing him anymore. I've written the arc of him. And so, there is also a grieving inside of it as I'm like ending. And I don't know if it ends in a year or like 5. Like I said, I don't know even what's happening with the 10th play, but my body is ending inside of this.
Yeah. And that you've grown for 16 years within it. I mean, not only to have this thing that lives on and many parts of this thing that lives on beyond this, literal time period of your life, but now this work that you have that will live on forever. But that it helped, it I would imagine carried you as a human, as an artist throughout a huge part of your life. Yeah. That's hard.
It was my purpose.
Yeah.
Many days, that was why I woke up. I woke up going, I want to write this. I want to see this. I am a part of the production for this. It was the anchoring of my world. It was the cycle.
Yeah. And and for anybody who hasn't seen this work, like, go to Boston, at least for the rest of however long this is happening, and also like around the country, because it's incredible. I've had the privilege of seeing some of your plays in San Francisco, also in New York, and it's so impactful and human. It's so human. And obviously it's not of my own culture, but like, people know lineage and grief and pain and joy and these universal familial deep feelings are so unbelievably palpable through your work, and it's just incredible. And it's really beautiful to hear how long it's been, because I think so often so many of us are like, oh, this play was written, it's done. And it's like, no, this has lived and it's breathed, and it was a thing that has sat and grown and expanded and contracted, and it 16 years is not a short period of time for you to be sitting with people in your mind and heart and body.
No. In many ways, the cycle and myself grew up together.
Yeah. Hi, actor friends. Talking to you. If finding the perfect monologue has you feeling stuck, I've got just the thing. I've put together a free monologue selection toolkit just for you. It's packed with resources, free and paid options, plus tips for choosing, editing, and customizing pieces to showcase you. Head over to jenniferapple.net/freebie and stop avoiding the auditions that ask for a monologue or waiting for the perfect piece to simply fall into your lap. Dive into this free toolkit that I set up just for you that'll set you up to feel agency over your process and artistry. That's jenniferapple.net/freebie and get started on finding your next go-to monologue. I am curious to unpack your literal writing process.
Okay.
As you say that it sits with you and it's of you, and that in some ways you're consumed by it while it's happening. Are you the kind of person that's like, okay, on Mondays I sit down for 4 hours and I write? Or is it like when it's consuming me, goodbye everything else, and I have to sit? Is it I know myself, and if I have a deadline, this is how I operate? Like, what is your process?
It changes per play. I don't know. I've written 9 of them now, and then things outside of the cycle as well. There are some plays where it's a more academic exercise where I actually need a deadline in order to like make myself get up and do the thing. And then you've gotten certain plays like Run Boy Run where I feel like I go into fugue state. And my dreams are this play. My waking life, I'll be talking, like say I'm talking with you, but the running log is actually what is happening in that play. And those are moments where I know if you are in any kind of love relationship with me, friendship, intimate partnership, shoot, like just familial, you're like, Mfoniso's gone now. And that's just what it is until the play comes out and I can get to the editing phase, which is a very different part of my brain, a little bit more clinical and far more technical. So each play is different. Right now, I would say I am kind of in that fugue state with the ceremony where it's always playing in the back of my mind what's happening inside of this. And that's my thinking is always inside the play. So it depends. It depends.
Yeah. What is that too? And again, does that change per play? And how do you stay structured? Do you read the whole thing through in order to start from where you need to start? Do you have a thing that's like, this has to be edited, let me go and live in this little moment? Like, what are you doing?
I have to talk to myself. Sometimes the editing is just as tiring, even though it's a different part of my brain, because I have to make sure that I am not editing out the spark in order to figure out the structure and make it or give it legs.
How do you do that for you?
And the hardest was The Grove, which just got its world premiere, but I wrote it 16 years ago. I think I was talking about how that was a play which is interrogating what it means to individualize within a collectivist culture. And it's also a story that is of me, has a bit of me inside of it, in that it is a queer African woman who is struggling with internalized homophobia. And also dealing with Nigerian ancestral spirit that lives inside of her. And so when I read it, when I reread it, it was almost, it had an emotional logic to it, but it needed more structure, actually.
Yeah.
And so I was in the edit realizing that sometimes my desire to give it structure was pulling away from the emotional movement. And so I had to stop that hand, or else I would gut the heart of the play.
Yeah.
And ask myself to slam myself into my 16-year-old, like go back 16 years and put myself into that body. And remember those emotions, which I no longer live inside of in the same way.
Yeah.
With this structural brain. And go, okay, this moment is imperfect, but it's going to live because it is emotionally correct.
Right. Right.
So I don't know how to like explain it more technically. I was moving from the top through the end. I wasn't like partitioning it out. I usually have to edit in flow state. For things like the Grove, it was actually really important to talk to people who had known me around that time. And that is why it's so wonderful. I was working with a Woye because she could stop my hand in certain places and be like, I think you don't touch that. And I trusted her enough to know, okay. Yeah, the one of the hardest things to do is talk about that kind of process.
Yeah.
But I needed help from people around me who knew me 16 years ago. And then I needed to continually put myself back in that body as much as possible with the new structural tools that I had to know when to use them and when to let it go.
Yeah. Well, that brings me to another question of your, I guess, the community that you do lean on, use for assistance, trust. Do you have folks that are like when you have a play, and obviously with the cycle, it's been a bit of a different kind of journey than say like a one that's just living on its own. But when you are working on a play and it's newer, are you bringing in similar folks that you've now had to like read it out loud at various points throughout? Do you have a say director or director friends that you're like, I need you? Like who are the people and how do you use them and how do you trust them differently and those dynamics?
I do. There are some dramaturgs that I work with who know my work really, really well. There is Catherine Kovner, who I work with a lot, who programmed Sojourners for the 2014, I believe so, at Playwright's Realm. And so that means she's been around for a long time inside of the cycle and knew me when I was a baby writer. So has learned how to, talk to me, give me a note. And usually every play goes to her. My partner, Donetta, knows me and knows the plays really well. And so every play pass goes through her. There are reasons like Awoye has actually directed in some form every single one of the plays. And even if it is not always her who will ultimately do a production, she knows what the plays are. And so I can talk to her through how things have moved. And then you've got people like a Loretta Greco, who's been programming them for a while and who I know and who has been in this world. So I've accumulated a group of people who've known me over a span of time and who also won't yes me alongside, I know you did a podcast with her as well, Ngozi, who will come and then see the plays, and we can have really wonderful conversation about what's happening inside of them. So I do have a group of people who I can lean on.
Yeah, which I think is really important to name because I feel, at least for myself, I know with my own writing, it can feel it's a really isolating or can be a really isolating process. And that when you're actually in the doing of it, it's just you and your, pages, your computer, whatever your form of writing is, and until it's, moving to the next stage. And so I love the invitation of like, you have the people who who you trust, who you admire, who you feel can give you insight as you are working so that it's not ultimately just like, and it's in production and now all of a sudden people are seeing and engaging with it for the first time. It's like, absolutely not. This is like, we work and it's a process through all of it.
That's right.
I would love to now venture into your writing for TV land, your writer's rooms of it all. You have been in a bunch and you're currently in another. And I'd love to hear how that journey began, how you were able to, I guess, pitch yourself into a room or had somebody pitch you for it. Like, how did it all start? How has it been? What is it like to write with others in a space, to collaborate in that way? Just talking already about like how writing when you're a playwright can be more individualized, like just that.
Oh man. Okay. So I, again, did not like wake up and go, I'm gonna write for TV. There are people who have such big dreams about writing. and I admire them. That is not how I operated. That was not what it was for me. This is around 2017, 2018.
Mhm.
Sojourners and Her Portmanteau had gone up at New York Theater Workshop. And there was this period of time in the TV world, which is not what it is right now. But there was this period of time where if you had a play or plays do well, you could go on that water bottle tour and without a spec script, potentially get a job.
Wild.
So after the plays went up at New York Theater Workshop, I go to LA for my first time. I do my first water bottle tour where everywhere I went, somebody offered me a bottle of water and I sat and I talked to an exec. And then and it is so tiring because you have to be fully on. I'm doing all of this prep work to understand what these companies do. And at this time in my life, I'm not even really watching TV. So I didn't have any real, I'm just like research, no real body understanding. And then I get in, my last meeting was for 13 Reasons Why.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking with the showrunner, and it was a good meeting. We were talking about particularities of the show and hopes for the next season. I went like home to wherever I was staying, the Airbnb in LA, and I get a call going, "Do you want to be in this room?"
Wild.
And so I was like, "Sure." So that's how that started. And it was actually, I think, my manager, Corrine, who is like, "Do you want to consider this?" And I was like, "Great." And then I'm also meeting Vern at Gersh, who was like, "This could be for you." I'm like, "Sure." So it was just a yes, but not one born of me at first.
Okay.
So that also meant I had to learn it. I was learning the form while being in a machine.
Yeah. Can we talk about the form for a sec?
Very different than playwriting.
Mm-hmm.
So for 13 Reasons Why, in order for me to really get under the hood of it, I was like asking the script assistant to basically give me all of the past drafts for the first two seasons so that I could read and understand.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd never written for the camera before.
Yeah.
And I, as a playwright, privileged dialogue and had to learn really quickly that I need to privilege what I'm seeing and how I use what I'm seeing to tell story.
Yeah.
And that depending on the kind of story and the kind of studio, I could either cut how I'm cutting into a story and writing the cut in, that I'm cutting out a little hot, how I build tension through image. And that's what I'm writing. Less about the building of story through dialogue, which is how I see what I do as a playwright. Maybe not what everybody else does, but that is what I do. So I had to learn that. And my first script at 13 Reasons Why, I got redlined so hard. I thought I didn't know if I would keep the job. And I don't know if he remembers he did it, but before it got to the showrunner, the number 2 in the room pulled me aside and was like, "I saw your script," and I pulled it before it got to the showrunner, sat down with me and was like, "You wrote a beautiful play.
Wow.
You cannot send this in.
Wow.
Because we need you to write a beautiful screenplay."
Yeah. Yeah.
And I do not care about this amount of dialogue.
Wow.
How do you show me what like this character is feeling?
Yeah.
Don't tell me.
Yeah. What a lucky moment that people were looking out, that I'm going to say that you made enough of a human impression on people that they were like, we really want to make sure that she's like doing a good job because we like her as a person and she's doing good work, but just not this work yet. And let's make the transition happen so that it doesn't become an issue or whatever. Like, I mean, yay to that human being who was like, "This is so good, but like medium, let's shift the medium, please."
Let's shift the medium.
Yeah.
And then was really explicit with me going, you're going to have to learn this fast. I know that you read all of those scripts. I saw that you did. That's great, but you're not picking up technically that I say you need to like close in on his face as this happens. And then he says, I love you, cut out. That's the story.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you clearly did it because you're still in many other writing rooms. So, so obviously the note had helped and it stuck. I'm curious now, as you've been in a couple, feel free to name them, as you've been in a couple for different networks, also if there's a different way that that inner working works, how it is to be collaborating in the writer's room specifically.
Yeah. Every network is different. So I've worked, I've worked a lot for like Apple TV. Once I think for Netflix, development with HBO, everywhere. And each place will want different things. And in fact, sometimes I get that like handed down the mandates sometimes of the network going, they are looking for this specific type of show to fill this kind of slot. And so an FX show is going to be very different than a Netflix show. It's going to be very different than an HBO show. And you are better off knowing the differences. And I learned that particular thing early. So
from a human or from your own research?
This was experience over time. So like I started out in 13 Reasons Why, where Netflix, and I learned the press play moment there, going, what is the thing that's going to make you gasp and continue to binge?
Right.
Very different than when I was doing Pachinko at Apple TV, where it's like, okay, how are we weaving these two storylines together to tell a human story that is so epic and cinematic? Like a story that no other network would dare do at this time or hasn't been done before. How are we pushing that envelope? And so it's nothing that was said as much as just learning. Because it is nothing like getting some notes back going, I don't care about that press play moment that what's a press play moment? And why'd you do that in this show?
Yeah.
So I learned it over time. And the writer's room, I learned how to be in a writer's room. I started off strangely. My 13 Reasons Why was my first show. I came in as a staff writer, and then I had a huge bump when I went to Little America to a consulting producer. And that was because of the nature of that show. It was an anthology, and the scripts were outsourced, and I was coming in to help. And then after that, we negotiated for my third show because that was such a bump that I couldn't start from there. And so I had to learn in the writer's room what collaborative writing was, which I'd never done before, and how to hold long form story in my head, which is very different than playwriting.
Can we unpack that for people who don't necessarily know what that means?
So the hardest for me was 13 Reasons Why, because I'd never done it before. You've got this character that has an arc over a season that's going to move him, to maybe solving a murder mystery. Underneath him is another story that's playing out that will intersect with his, but can live on its own without him. And then sometimes there's another story underneath that, which will intersect, but will live on its own. And everything will then culminate in a cohesive way on theme by the end of the season. And so I am used to working with a singular protagonist in my plays, and potentially a singular antagonist and one problem that is small enough to hold an hour or an hour and a half.
Yeah.
TV is going to be holding at this time 13 episodes at 1 hour each. That's long form. So Dylan,
Yes.
or I'm using the name of the character in the show, is going to have to go through so much more. And then you've got a B and a C story underneath that.
Right.
And that was a lot of story to hold in my head. And so I remember going, oh, what happened to him literally one episode ago? Wow, shoot. How did and then there are these people in the room, because you're putting all of these story points up on cards, boards in a room, and they're the people who know how to like move these cards like savants to create whole new story. And I'm like, I'm just trying to get a handle on what all these beats are. And then you've got other storylines going. So that's a real skill set that I think I now have a handle on.
Yeah. Well, clearly you have a handle on it because you keep working in this medium.
Working. But that was one of the, along with writing the picture and how the picture will tell the story. It was holding long form story that I had to really learn that.
Yeah. Have you been using the same monologue for years? Are you gearing up to apply for BA, BFA, or MFA programs and need pieces for that process? Or maybe you just have no idea where to even start with monologue hunting? I get it. And that's why I offer monologue sourcing. This is a unique process where I find monologues chosen specifically for you. So many artists pick pieces based on external labels like type or for roles rather than finding material that represents who they truly are. So here's how it works. We'll meet virtually and you'll share all about who you are, your passions, values, beliefs, and everything in between. Don't worry, I will help guide you through this process. Then I'll get to work finding monologues that fit you like a glove. With years of experience sourcing pieces for hundreds of artists, I've seen the difference it makes to have a monologue that genuinely feels like you. So, if you want to feel empowered about the monologues you bring into rooms and use for auditions, I would love to help you find them. And because you're a listener of the Empowered Artist Collective podcast, I'm offering an exclusive rate. Head to empoweredartistcollective.com/podcast promo to register and claim the special offer. That's empoweredartistcollective.com/podcast promo. I cannot wait to help you find monologues you absolutely adore. How is it in this collaborative space too, then, with other folks who are writers in their own right, and also as you're creating together? How did you adapt to that? What were some of the things that you feel have been really beneficial to your own writing? Do you enjoy that kind of process?
I do now. In the beginning, I was like, bro, I said what I said. Why? Why are we having such like an interrogation on this? Like, I was used to being the singular because that's what you are when you're the playwright. The buck stops with you. If you don't want something to happen, it will not happen. That is not the case in TV. And the reason why you have so many different people at a table is so that no element of story is abandoned. Right. It's also so that every vantage point can be held, so that there can be wonderful fights over what the story needs to do to build the best story. And so it took me a while to understand what that kind of collaboration was, because I was coming from playwriting and maybe also my own personal temperaments going, but this is what I wrote. And people are like, I could
don't care.
I don't care less. I could care less because that will actually stop the story from moving forward. And I know that you think that that's great, but it's going to kill us by mid-season. And so this is what we ought to do. So I had to learn how to listen. I had to learn how to pitch, a pitch story. So it used to be, I started out going, this is what the story is. Not the thing to do. To move that to this is what the story could be. And then into that going, oh, I see your pitch. And in order to move the story forward, I give you a story beat that can maybe do that. Now to the point of going, oh, I could see an entire story arc. Bear with me here. Here's what that story arc is. Anybody want to like take a look at beat 8 and go, how do we make that better? Because I think my turn could be wrong. So I had to learn it.
Yeah. And now that you are balancing the TV writer's room hat with your own personal plays, finishing this cycle, continuing to develop new stuff besides the cycle, like how are you finding that things maybe bleed stylistically or structurally? Are you finding that? How do you balance your creativity when it's needed in so many places? The bleeding and the blossoming and the balancing, all these B words currently. How are we doing them?
The balancing is a thing I still struggle with. I won't say that. I mean, if anybody here has listened to other interviews with me, they'll be like, "Oh, she's still dealing with the same thing." I am. This is a tiring thing to be using your brain this much.
Yeah.
And I said it before, every day is Wednesday, time is a flat circle. And the new thing is like Swiss cheese brain, where they're like, just sometimes I'm like reaching for words that should be there. And I know it's about brain exhaustion.
Yeah.
So when you talk about balancing, I am in the middle of a balancing act where there are 9 plays going up in Boston. And I am working on one writer's room right now and have, I think, 2 development things going right now alongside some musicals. And then trying to maintain my friendships, my relationships with family, intimate partner relationships. And that can cause real stress. And so I'm inside of something that is maybe not as sustainable. And, it is why I say also to get to the brass tacks of it, at a certain point, I must be done with the Ufot cycle. And I must have the plays at a place where I'm like, this is great. I might revisit and re-edit at a later time, but they exist. And then I am starting to exercise no's in film and TV. And now I need to stick to them, so the only person who can balance it will be me, and I have to just do it. When it comes to though how my TV writing might be affecting my playwriting affecting my TV writing, and the bleed between those, it's actually been really good for me and my writing, I think, to be within different writing modes.
Tell me more.
So I'll say it for a play like The Ceremony, where I'm writing a contemporary figure in the protagonist of that is Ekong, and he is very much so ported into television and music in a way my other protagonists like Abasiyama and Disciple are not. I was thinking in that play frame to frame while understanding the realities of a stage. So I was able to play inside form in a different way, going, this pushes in, that pushes out, like kaleidoscopic, as if frames are cutting in.
Yeah.
And that was really fun.
Yeah.
And then the way I think playwriting will affect my screenwriting is I am still a dialogue hound. Like finding the exact way to say, I love you.
Right.
Even though I wrote the picture is so satisfying. And I do think that that's why a lot of production companies, studios, whomever, they are looking to hire playwrights if they can, because that's the thing they'll fill in. It is not just the picture. There's a way then that the storytelling can get deeper through dialogue, even as you're privileging picture. So it's been very helpful, actually.
Yeah. For anybody who is a playwright or wants to lean into their writing hat more, or they want to trust themselves a bit more in their own writing capabilities or creativity, or they are wanting to get more into writers' rooms or like the writing land, if they are wanting or already do this, how or what would be some advice that you would give somebody who is like, this is, I have the feelings, I have the things to say, or I'm freaking out, or I don't know where to start, like that?
I would say, I know everyone is like, find your voice. Like that is like that's not the most esoteric thing to say to somebody.
Right. Yes. Yes.
But there is a way when you are scratching out on paper a story and there's a line that might come out of you that you look at and you're kind of proud of it, to interrogate the why too. Going, you're probably, there's something inside of you that's living in that line, in that monologue. And the more you know the why that made you peak, that will become your superpower over time. And so I will say for me, there was like a formality inside the Nigerians' language. Sometimes even like a hyper poetic. So like in Run Boy Run, I think there was a line going, "It all began in black." And I'm saying this because I was just inside some kind of conversation with that play. And there's a way in which the music of it, the lyricism of it, I understood I was onto something, even though I didn't know what it was. And I just sat with it for a while, keep turning it around, going, that's me right there, and hold that precious, while also hearing what other people are giving back to you, of course. But the nurturing of those moments that you love in your own writing is going to be so helpful for the sustain. So I don't know if that answers that question.
1,000% it does.
Yeah.
You know, because so often especially again in a world where if the goal, if one's goal or one's mission is to get something produced in some way, if that is the thing, then many voices start to enter the room, and to know when those voices are helpful or when they're hindrances, or when sometimes they might be helpful, but you just know internally that ultimately is going to not be in alignment with your own self. Like, to have that compass, I would imagine, is desperately important, especially as you continue moving into the quote unquote goal land of it, because otherwise there's the compromise in a way that might not actually continue being in alignment. And then what are we doing?
That's right. That's right. And it's the lesson of my life has been the balance between hard and soft. Soft enough to be able to hear what somebody is saying without rejecting it wholesale, to hear it at least to the end of the sentence and go, I will consider. And then, and maybe I shouldn't say hard, but hard / strong enough to understand what my internal is also saying, so that those two things can meet.
Yeah. Oof, beautiful.
So
that's so beautiful. Thank you so much for taking time out of this wild balance that you are currently in. I feel grateful and honored that you've given time to our listeners in this way, and that you shared your process, your art, your mind, your heart, your spirit, and the way that you work. It's palpable, even just talking to you, and the way that you care, and also the way that you are very specific, not precious, about how you communicate. And I'm so grateful to share it like be an alum with you of the same space, but also to like know you as an artist and to continue championing your work. So thank you for being in this space and taking the time. Yeah. For anybody who wants to find you, work with you, read your stuff, where within your boundaries is the best place for people to reach out?
You can find me on the Instagrams. I'm really trying to be, I'm showing my age. You can find me on the Instagrams. I'm really trying to at least let people know through Instagram and Facebook what I am doing, because it used to be that I wasn't really on it. But yeah, and then I also have a website, www.mfonisoudofia.com. So you can find me through all of the social medias. If you do direct message me, I usually get back. It might take a month, but I try.
Yeah. That's real. It's very real.
I try, and I do. I hope if there's anybody in Boston that you go out and you see a show.
I love it. Thank you so much for being in the space.
Thank you.
That's it for today's episode. I hope you walk away with some fresh insights, feel inspired, and a little more empowered to take the next step on your artistic journey. Remember, whether it's a small shift or a big breakthrough, every step forward counts. You've got this, and we're here cheering you on every step of the way. If you found today's episode helpful, don't forget to hit subscribe so you'll never miss out on the discussions we have each week. And if something today really resonated with you, please leave us a review. It truly is one of the best ways to help other artists find our podcast and join in on the conversations. Plus, we feel the love too when you do. And don't keep all this goodness to yourself. Share this episode with your people or post about it on social media. Be sure to tag at Empowered Artist Collective and at @JenniferApple_ so we can see what's landing for you and keep the conversation going. As always, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for being a part of this incredible community. Keep creating, keep thriving, stay empowered. I'm Jennifer Apple. Until next time.